Good morning. My name is Jill Jusko. I'm with Industry Week, and I am pleased that you have joined us this morning for lessons learned from the 2008 IW Best Plants winner, Lockheed Martin Corporation, MS2 Tactical Systems. Before I introduce our speaker, we ask that you please turn off your cell phones to avoid any interruptions during this presentation. I also want to mention that we will leave about 10 minutes for Q&A at the end of this presentation, so jot down your questions as they occur to you, and we will be running around with the microphone. Okay, our speaker this morning is David Brantley. David has over 34 years experience in the defense electronics manufacturing industry. He began his career at Sperry Univac, and through business mergers and acquisitions worked for Unisys, Paramax, L'Oreal, and Lockheed Martin, where he is currently employed. After receiving his BSE from the University of South Florida in 1974, David began his career as a manufacturing engineer. He advanced through various positions in manufacturing engineering as a manufacturing test engineering manager and as a project manager. He received his master's in business administration from Florida Institute of Technology in 1985, while continuing his career in other positions in proposals and business development. David Brantley is a member of the senior leadership team at the Lockheed Martin's manufacturing site in Oldsmar, Florida. Please help me welcome Mr. David Brantley to the podium.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Our general manager, by the way, Stephen Hill, is right here also, so I'll just point that out. I guess since this is the lessons learned, I guess the first lessons learned, if Industry Week ever contacts your site about needing a speaker for a conference, don't miss the meeting. Okay? No, actually, I'm really excited about doing this. This is something I do a lot for customers that come into our facility, and I'll enjoy telling our story. I'm going to borrow something I saw one night on an infomercial. I saw an infomercial on TV one night. It was a guy giving a talk about how to be a millionaire, and he kept on baiting you the whole time, saying, I'm going to give you the number one thing you got to watch out for and how to become a millionaire. Have you seen this? And he keeps baiting you. You have to wait for half an hour, and he finally comes out with the thing at the very end. So I waited for half an hour, went through the whole infomercial, and he finally gives you that secret jewel, So I'm going to try to give you one too about our site, but it's probably not going to be near as good as this one. But the one he gave was, watch what poor people do and don't do that. So I thought that was pretty insightful. Of course, the one I'm going to have about our facility, I'm going to try to keep one towards the end too, but it's probably not as good as that one. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I'm going to talk a little bit about our facility just so you know who we are, and then I'll kind of go into our lessons learned. The lessons learned we actually put into our application and we talked about, and we think, over the 34 years or 35 years now, what we've kind of learned over the years, and I guess what I've learned also, I can't believe it's been 35 years. I remember when I turned 30, I thought, wow, I'm getting old, and now I've worked someplace longer than that, so that's a tough thing to come to grips with. How many other DoD manufacturers do we have in here? Do we have other ones? Okay, great. That's great. So you kind of understand maybe the climate we kind of go through and live every day. A lot of different products. We are a little bit different as a Lockheed Martin manufacturing site, where most manufacturing sites within large DoD corporations, you're basically doing your own work within your own little business unit. Years ago we found out that maybe that wasn't going to be enough to keep us open. So we started. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today is really. You almost have that burning platform mentality, right? I mean, that's usually why people want to change something. Something really starts shaking people up, and you realize you've got to do something different to stay in business. So we have very diverse products all across all of Lockheed Martin's. We actually do work almost like a DoD contract manufacturer, because we do work with Boeing, we do work with L3, we do work with Northrop Grumman. So we do work with other DoD manufacturers, and we actually contract out our manufacturing services to them. Just a little bit about Lockheed Martin. So those of you who don't know, we have four major business units. It's business areas: electronic systems, space systems, information systems and global services, and aeronautical systems. And I think aeronautical systems is probably what everybody associates us with. You know, the jet fighters, the Joint Strike Fighter F-35, the F-22. A lot of these things have made the news lately because of, the Defense Secretary Gates is talking about what programs are going to live and which ones are going to die, and, the debate in Congress and everything else. We are actually under the Electronic Systems Group. Under the Electronic Systems Group, it's kind of broke up, and this is part of a large corporation, right? You got to get on down to where you actually exist. Maritime systems and sensors, missiles, fire control, and platform training and energy. That's up in Wago. In fact, they've made the news a lot lately because that's the presidential helicopters is built there. So I think President Obama was questioning whether he really needed a new helicopter. So obviously those people probably are not the happiest right now, and so it's a lot of debates in Congress over that. But we're actually in a Maritime Systems and Sensors group, and you can see 38,000 employees just in that group. So we're kind of a weird mix, because when you get down to our site, you'll see that our population is not that big. But we're part of MS2 Tactical Systems, and Tactical Systems actually is in 3 sites. We do a lot of different things here. You can see ruggedized computing infrastructures, maritime surveillance systems. That's a lot of the old, you see up there, the P-3 aircraft does a lot of maritime surveillance. It's a very old aircraft, but we actually put the mission systems on it. Navy command and control. Navy is a huge portion of our business. Common radio room. Tactical avionics. We support a lot of the aeronautics programs over in Fort Worth and Marietta, and a lot of customer support services. So you finally get down to our site. You saw, Tactical Systems probably has, I should have gone back to the last chart. Let me go back to it, actually, here. Tactical Systems actually has 3 locations. The main location is actually in Eagan, Minnesota, and then we have a site in San Diego, and then we are the manufacturing and test site in Clearwater. Now, our site has about a little over 400 people, so we're not really large, which is kind of a unique attraction for a lot of people, because what we end up being is that you still have all the advantages of going out, learning about a lot of things in a big corporation, a lot of opportunities in a big corporation, but at the same time, when you're down to that size, I think it's great because people get to learn the business. They can almost learn all aspects of the business, and so we get a lot of. We have a leadership development program in Lockheed Martin, and a lot of young people want to come through our site because they really get a feeling of what it's like to work in all the different areas. We kind of move them around, so it actually helps grow people, not always for ourselves, but at least for the corporation. But many of them actually leave, and then they come back. So I think we have something good going on. We are a BPP site. Pretty competitive cost structure. It's a non-union shop. Flexible workforce. We really stress flexibility, and it's a very low volume, high mix. About our highest run product has probably been about maybe 3,000 of a mission board computer a month. Most everything is a low volume, high mix. So I'm not sure how that relates to a lot of people here. I know the DoD manufacturers, it probably relates very close to what they're doing. And I mentioned about 200,000 square feet, I think, our facility. And it's full service. The only thing we don't really do on our site is we don't do any design engineering. The executive leadership team and business management is actually done at our Eagan, Minnesota site. So we're the manufacturing site. We don't even do sourcing. We send our recs up to a central sourcing agency that does the sourcing for us. Full service manufacturing. Like I said, a lot of chassis assembly integration. ESS stands for Environmental Stress Screening System Test. It's a DoD requirement. Circuit card assemblies. We kind of break out space separately because we're doing now space circuit card assemblies. So, and cable harnesses and assemblies. And material and subassembly kitting. We have a very advanced automatic storage and retrieval system. We think that helps us kind of break into new businesses sometimes with, we start doing kitting for people, maybe some small subassemblies, end up kind of working up the food chain, so it kind of helped us out. Traffic management. And we have like some life cycle support services too with the post office, actually. Some post office work we did in the 80s and 90s. We're still supporting that. Again, a lot of different products. Our products, I kind of like just recently that we went into the space business because we already are, we're doing stuff for the Navy. So obviously we have a lot of mission systems on the surface. We have mission systems underseas. We do a lot of work underseas. We have stuff in the air. And I thought, well, great, now we finally have stuff circling the globe. So we kind of build a lot of different product out of our facilities. So it's unique that way, I think. And again, just speaking to the uniqueness, we actually have a lot of customers all over the United States where, again, typically a manufacturing site within a DoD business is really just servicing their own business unit. So you can see we're doing work all over the country for the Northrop Grummings, the Boeings. Actually, the Boeing product we actually support is it's made the news a lot ever since about 2001. Is the JDAM product. JDAM is a Joint Direct Attack Munitions. Is actually taking a dumb 1,000-pound, 2,000-pound bomb and changing it and putting a different tail kit on it and actually making it a smart bomb. And it's a very, very small target. It can hit probably any of these little tables here from about 40,000 feet. And so it's kind of a neat way to make a smart weapon at a very cheap cost. And we ended up building the mission computer for that. And I have a little story about that later. Just dimensions. We're managing about 36 programs at any time. It used to be where you have a program, you're working, you're manufacturing for many, many years. Our business has changed a lot. That's probably one of the mantras for everyone in here is that, change comes more rapidly now, and as far as technology. A lot of the programs we used to build before, everything was custom. Didn't really matter what our DoD customer was. It was custom cards, custom products all over the place. Now, whenever possible, we find the DoD is going to commercial off-the-shelf product. And so our business mixes change a lot. It's faster cycle times. You're constantly doing tech insertion. So it's really a different business altogether. Those 36 programs, you come to our shop right now, look at the 36 programs that are running, come back 2 years later, probably in different 36 programs. So we're in a constant change mode, and so we really have to come up to speed very quickly. You don't have 2 years to get good at something. You have to be good at it right away. So we try to have really strong processes. Because of DoD, you're managing a lot of different accounts. We do this about 415 employees. We have about 500 active suppliers that we're managing, actually through our sourcing organization. We're managing about 4,500 different assembly part numbers. That kind of speaks to the high mix, low volume type of thing I was talking about. And you can see kind of where our work is. On the cabinets and racks and systems, it's 45%. Cards are about 35%. Cables are about 20%. And we're managing about 30,000 procure piece part numbers. So, we have what's a little unique maybe in a DoD business. Everything has to have a different project, different account. And so you might have the same hardware in two different locations, just different projects, and you have to track all that. So it really becomes an issue of managing all that product and managing it quickly, and we have some systems that do that. So now we're getting down to the lessons learned here, and I'll go over these in a little bit more detail. But what we found, over the 34 years, and we're sitting around the room as we were doing the application. We're trying to think, what are the things that we thought were really key over 35 years as we evolved and went through this whole process. And quality first. I think it's probably been the mantra from the very beginning. Quality was the number one thing that we really focused on. And it really wasn't all that way always. I remember in the late 70s when I was first there, we were building product, a lot of new people. We didn't really have the proper systems in place. We were going to try to do something all new world. It was an off-site location, something new for our division, and we were going to try all these new things. Well, all these new things at once, not really having, at the time, any kind of lean principles really to guide us or anything else, it really didn't work out that well. And we actually had our DCAA, which is a Defense Contractor Auditing Agency, which actually, it's a little unique maybe than if you're not in a DoD business. We have our customer there every day, and they're making sure the product, they have to sign off on their product as a DD 250 is what they call it, a form in DoD, to sign off on your product. Well, they ended up getting down into our operations. They weren't happy with our quality and ended up actually locking it, not letting anything going out the door. That was a very sobering time for all of us, realizing we were building stuff we weren't going to be able to ship anything. So we really had to change the whole focus, and everything then became quality. It became more important than schedule. The schedule wasn't even on the board. It was all about quality. So probably way off on the side where you're not looking at the three things, quality, schedule, and cost. You're just focusing on quality, which wasn't really the right thing either. But we had to do that to get off the dime. But I think that's what really set us down that path. And then after that, it was, this is how we're going to keep our customer base. This is how we're going to separate ourselves from everyone else that's doing this business. Because what ends up happening is our different sister divisions, when they go out and they're looking for manufacturing, they don't automatically come to us. They're going on the outside looking at other DoD manufacturers and saying, maybe we should just get this done on the outside, like a lot of people, we all know that, or outsource anything that's happening all the time. So we're out there competing all the time. We know we're competing. We have to figure out what's going to be our discriminator, what's going to really separate us. And so one thing we know we have to do is, quality first. Now, I'm going to go through a few slides here that kind of, stresses that point here. This is our, over the last, 10 years here, this is our Sigma chart as we're going through our processes here. Now, this Sigma chart, I should say, this is not our finished product, because obviously, we have a warfighter that's going to. This got to be Six Sigma, right? It's got to be like an airplane pilot or the doctor that's going to do surgery on you, right? No defects are acceptable. So these are actually, this is our in process. This is as we go through the process, every step of the process, and we have our different inspections as we're recording defects. This is what our Sigma rating is, and you can see how we have improved over the years, and it's really, it's an evolution. It wasn't like one big thing. It's like just staying on track, having that commitment. I think we heard someone say this morning that it really has to be a commitment from the CEO all the way down, and we really do have that. So we're fortunate there. And, I can't say people right away bought into everything, like, oh, great, another program. I mean, we hear that a lot where people, another program, what are we going to do this week? But as long as it has the same basic principles, it doesn't really matter what the name is. And I have a chart I'll show you there, too, that shows we've had a lot of different names of what this is called, but we've really stayed on the same path the whole time. I remember when we first started down this path, I was a manufacturing engineer on the circuit card assembly floor, and I was watching, where I was, monitoring. I first started this, defects per million opportunities. No one was even tracking at the time, and so I started doing this, and everybody's like, well, what is David Brantley doing down there now? And we're going through this, and I'm looking at different operations, and I keep seeing right before, if you know anything about circuit card assembly, obviously you have a printed wiring board. You have to put components on the board. You have to take this board and then get through some type of soldering process. And the technology has changed over the years. This is back in the play-through hole days. Now everything is surface-mounted parts. But this is, so we're doing a lot of automatic insertion, but we still had some hand insertion after that, where we had rows of people at the time, and we had color-coded sheets, and we tried to keep on making the process better and better and better, and how are we going to do this? And we had this, and we kept on getting defects as we were coming off the wave, and we couldn't figure out, what's going on. We keep on trying to improve the process, so we weren't getting there. But we weren't thinking the process in total, right? We were thinking the process, this little work instruction area. We weren't thinking a little bigger. So I started looking around, and I'm thinking, I wonder if what's going on in inspection? Why aren't they catching this stuff? Well, I started noticing that some of the inspectors, they couldn't see the components, and these boards weren't soldered yet, right? So they would look at the component like, I can't see the component, so they'd pull the component out of the hole. Okay, I started watching the inspector do it one day, so they could read the part. This is back when you actually could read the part on them. These days you can't read anything on them. And they'd read it, and they go, well, yep, that is the right part. And they stick it back, sometimes in the right hole, sometimes it's oriented, that kind of thing. So we actually found out that, that was my first lesson probably in this whole process, that you can't inspect quality in anything. It's just not the way it works. I think we all know that. We go to all the sessions, but you actually witness it and watch your inspectors introducing defects. So I went ahead and I went to our quality assurance people, and I said, I need to eliminate that inspection operation. They go, oh my God, what do you mean? Our defects have been getting worse. I said, trust me, just eliminate that. Okay, so we eliminate that operation, and we went up like a Sigma, and just like in a week. And I'm thinking, and so it really was a lesson to me that you need to look at the process in total, and it's the robustness of that whole process. It's not about how many inspection operations you put in. That does not make a good process. I got another great example too. This is back when I didn't work in the circuit card assembly area. I worked in more of the chassis area, and we had these metallic ID labels that you had to put a solvent on them. You stick them onto the aluminum chassis, and they're like, forget it. You can't get them off after that. If you put them in the wrong place, you're ripping them off with pliers, and it's really a pain, and you could damage the chassis and everything else. So I decided, well, I'll fix that. I'm going to make that robust process. So I made a tool that located, a pretty simple tool, and so I gave it to the assembly people, and they they were locating the label, and I said, yep, perfect, everything works out great. I was just as happy as could be, documented the process, do all the things you're supposed to do. So I'm walking down lunch one day, and I see all these chassis, and I see people with solvent, and they're taking pliers, and they're pulling the labels off, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm panicking, thinking, oh my God, I must have screwed up the tool somehow. Or I made the tool where they could use it backwards or whatever. So I go on over there, and I said, what's the deal? I said, well, the inspector said they're all wrong. I said, who? I mean, how could the inspector say it's wrong? So I go over to the quality inspector, and maybe this is not saying much for our QA, and our QA department is probably going to hear this speech and probably they're going to lamb-blast me. Right. But if you're hearing this videotape later, QA at Lockheed Martin, this was 25 years ago. Okay, it's all different now. It's a disclaimer. So I go over there, and I said, what are you using? And she says, well, my process tells me to use a scale and to measure it. We got to measure it. I said, well, show me how you're measuring. So she says, well, it says it's got to be 0.12 from the edge. And she was pulling off 12/32 off the scale, And so she was having everybody pull everything off, even though it was right. And so, again, another lesson for me that, you got to really watch that process. Inspection doesn't really make, always a good process. So, 2 valuable lessons I learned there. Another valuable tool I think that really has helped us, and maybe many of you have this in your factories, I don't know, but I think one of the biggest fallacies that we have is we spend, it seems like, a lot of time collecting measurements. Are we collecting the right measurements? Are we collecting the right metrics? And are they timely? And if they're not timely, I think that's the thing that really kills you. I think what I see a lot of times is people will give a report weekly or monthly, and then they'll look at the report and, we got a problem in this area. And then you go down the assembly floor and you ask Sally Joe, what happened to this assembly on, 1 month ago? Well, are you kidding me? She's not going to remember. No one remembers anything from that long ago. We actually have a system that we put in place many years ago, and we saw, results pretty much right away because the way we attacked it. We have a system that actually we record in process every defect. It goes in a statistical process control module. It does an automatic run chart, looks for statistically out of control conditions, upper and lower control limits. It flags those immediately. Process stops. No other product is built until a manufacturing engineer, quality engineer, or quality assurance representative, and a manufacturing engineer go down there and resolve that problem, get to the root cause, and allow that process to continue. Fix the process and continue. Now, there are bigger problems sometimes where we all know that you can't fix them in 32 seconds, right? But what we do is those go on a corrective action list that we address in our manufacturing functional reviews, and they drive that to resolve the problem. Sometimes they are bigger. You might have to do some little workarounds or change your process to accommodate for something that you've got going in your process. But that real-time feedback, I can't stress how important that really is. And I think that process for us is probably one of the single things that's really helped us on the quality side. Lean. Like I said, we've done a lot of things. We've done a lot of things on Lean. And you can see all the different programs here. This is a continuous improvement journey, and now it's like 35 years. I remember there was something I wanted to tell you about that. Oh, yeah, I remember that story. That's another good story. But anyway, we had a lot of different programs, and I mentioned this. We really focused on the quality side at first. It was all about zero defects and that type of thing. But really, zero defects, it is really about being lean too, right? When you're lean, you're doing things right. Everything just kind of culminates together. You're getting zero defects. Your processes are better. You're more efficient. Your schedules are better. Everything starts working well. And you can see we've gone through different processes, different tools, and now we have something that's called Lockheed Martin Operating Excellence. It's a nice name, but what it really is a set of tools that everyone uses. I'd say for one that I've never been a big team guy a lot of times. I think I have the answer. I worked in manufacturing for 25 years. I have the answer. I don't need anyone else's to tell me what's right. I live with this product every day. I know what's right. But what you really what you really buy, and maybe I'm getting into my next section here, what you really buy is you get that team commitment, okay? If you just force your idea onto someone, it just never really works well. And so even if your idea may get modified just a little bit, but usually, I mean, they'll buy into your idea, but once it's part of their idea and the way they want to implement it, it sure makes life go a lot smoother. I remember when we were trying to do some of these lean initiatives, and this probably was, I got all my years screwed up. As the years go on, I can't remember what decade I was in. But I think it might have been late 80s or 90s or that type of thing, and I think more like the 80s. And we had, at the time, we were building probably about 300,000, 400,000 circuit card assemblies a year. Now, we were working in the circuit card assembly area. And at any one time, we probably had 30,000 CCAs in a work in process. You know, a huge amount of assemblies to keep track of at any one time. So we were only getting about 4,000 to 5,000 out a week. So which you can kind of do the math, and we're talking about 6 weeks to get a circuit card assembly out, which probably had maybe 4 hours of real work on it. But all the rest of the time was queue time waiting for something to happen. So I started looking at this. We had some guy come in about just-in-time factory and that kind of thing, and like most consultants, I'm not trying to trash any consultants. They're really good about telling you the bigger scope of things, but they're never going to tell you specifically about what to do for your factory, just like I can't. So now I kind of empathize with them. I mean, because you know your own factory, and that's the speech I got from this guy at the end of the day. Was, well, you know your own factory, you know what you have to do, and I was trying to show him what we were doing. And we had these, and one of the things that we were doing, and one of the things that everyone knows is probably not the way to go now, but back then we really weren't thinking that way, was we were batching jobs, pretty big quantities. We were batching circuit card assemblies, 30, 40, 50 in a job. And we were doing that because why most people batch things, because your setup times are so big. And so we kept batching things, and really what really was doing was just disguising, all the problems that we actually had on the shop floor as far as setups and our equipments and how we were thinking. So it never really forced us to think properly. So this is one of the times where I probably did force something, and I got probably, if I had like these days a Kaizen project or something, it probably would have gone a lot smoother because I would have had a buy-in and that kind of thing. So it was really a battle for me, and I probably took a beating there for a while. But I said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the jobs. We're going to reduce them all down, not to 1. We're going to reduce them down to 5. Jobs of 5, from 30 to 5. And I got all this, You can't pull them out of stores that way. It'll take us forever to pull them out of stores, and this is going to be crazy. There's going to be more jobs on the floor. Now we even have more jobs and more buckets, and we're going to need more racks, and we're going to need more of this, and it's going to take too much time with all the setup times. From every aspect of our business, I had people jumping on me, telling me why you can't do this. So we went ahead and we forced it anyway. And I got one senior leadership person on my side, so we forced it anyway. And little by little, we started working through the whip on the floor, and then we started realizing, there's things that we could do with our equipments that, it wouldn't make it a perfect world. I mean, obviously the perfect world is you buy all this capital equipment, you have all this space, that's the perfect world, right? And you have everything dedicated to line, and you don't have these functional areas like we had. And a lot of the areas tend to have to be functional in some areas because of the capital expenditure. But and that'd be the ideal world, have all these separate lines. But we couldn't do that, so we found a mixture of that, spending a minimized amount of a little bit of money to adapt our machines and our systems to be able to get these jobs down to 5 more efficiently. So we kept working through it. And after about 2 or 3 months, the shop floor, the whip started going way down. I mean, it went from 30,000 down to big, huge jumps, 25, 20. And within about 3 months, we were down like 15,000 range. And then we kept dropping lower, okay? Well, then what ended up happening? We had this huge assembly floor with all these racks out there that now the racks didn't have all these jobs on there anymore. The jobs, they were moving through. The velocity was getting there. It wasn't 6 weeks to get a card out anymore. It was like 3 weeks to get a card out. So then eventually we got down to 10,000 jobs on the floor, and pretty soon we got down to 5,000 jobs on the floor. So pretty much it was like a 1 week turnaround time on our cards. And at the same time, as this was happening, our engineers were working really hard, manufacturing engineering people, trying to figure out how we can best way to get our setups down, because that was always the thing that we said we couldn't do. Our stores people did the same kind of thing. And we started trying to think, it made us think and force ourselves to think a little differently. And so the unintended consequence of this, which is kind of amusing actually, is then people on the assembly floor were convinced, since all the racks were empty now, that we were going to have a layoff. Something was wrong. We're going to have a layoff. Where's the work? We need more work. And I kept on trying to tell them, no, we're getting 5,000 cards out a week. This is what we always did. This is what we need to do. In fact, we're building the right 5,000 now before, right? When you have all that WIP, are you building the right things? You know, many times what ends up happening, which really created that big WIP thing, I never forgot the problems it caused for us, was that we started just, you know, you're pumping work in there all the time. You go into these meetings every morning, and it's like, oh, we need more jobs, more jobs, more jobs. And you're building stuff, and you're consuming inventory and parts, but sometimes on the wrong stuff, not the stuff that you need first, right? So you end up not even making your schedules. Now you have part shortages. Now things are sitting on racks waiting for parts. I mean, it got crazy. And once we did that, then we started removing the racks and moving everything closer. And then we had more space and more place for equipment if we needed it, and everything. And it just snowballed. And little by little, we've done that. And now we keep on driving down and trying to get jobs down even smaller and smaller and smaller. In fact, I think I have a chart someplace where, you know, right now 63% of our jobs are a quantity of one. So that's been pretty steady. For some reason, of our product mix, that's about where we are right now. We haven't really been able to break higher than that. But we actually flow things through our facility that way. And the velocity is so much better. You're consuming the parts where you're supposed to be consuming. You're building what you're supposed to be building, and it's really made a difference. And I really, every time I think back of when did it really all start, that we went down that path, it was when we forced it, and it was such pain for me. I thought I was going to get fired over it. But, and it's like I said, in retrospect, the better way of doing that is all the tools you have now, especially when you have people buying into lean processes. You know, every manufacturing plant, I think, has heard lean now and quality and Kaizen events and those kind of things. So those tools are out there. And if you have some, you know, just a little bit of buy-in from your management, you're going to be, you know, it's going to be a lot easier for you than it was for me back a couple of decades ago. And we've done a lot of things. I talk about, you know, point of use document. This is probably not new to a lot of you. We actually do some things where, you know, more and more we've been trying on parts that we can do it on. And obviously in a DoD business, you can't do a lot of it because of the traceability components, especially like on space work and that kind of thing. But where we can, what we try to do is we have our suppliers, you know, stock our shelves for us, you know, on parts that we can do it on, as many parts as we can do it on wires and sleevings and screws, nuts, washers, and bolts. And they actually come in, we tell them, here's what we want, here's going to be our need. Over the next, you know, year, 2 years, we work out those contracts. They come in and stock it just like the bread guy does in the grocery store, right? The guy comes in, he stocks your shelves, he bills you. I mean, you see those guys in there all the time, those bread guys. I mean, they're in there straightening the shelves. In fact, I had a friend that actually used to do that, and his wife was always getting mad at him because he'd be running the grocery store at 10 o'clock at night, making sure all the shelves were straight, making sure his bread looked the best, you know. And so these guys were making sure their stuff would sell. The guys. The screw nuts and bolts washers guys are not like that, but they do come out and they actually we give them points on the floor. Here's where we want your hardware, and they come on out and they do it. We have barcoded, they wand it, they let us know, they bill us, and at the end of the program they actually take back any material excess. So you know the cost of a screw in manufacturing, right? It's not the cost of the screw; it's the cost of getting the screw there or not having it, right? So that's the part you really want to address, and that's what we've addressed with that process. So it's really worked out really, really well for us. And we've actually negotiated with them where it doesn't cost us any extra. So yeah, it's not, we can't do it on all the hardware. You have to obviously have a little bit higher users. It's not going to be the part you use only 50 of a year. It's not going to be that way. But where you can do it, I really suggest you do it. It really saves all that storage expense and getting as much material to the floor, the point of use where it's supposed to be. One of the other unique things we do, and I'll just mention not to go through all of these, I think a lot of them everyone does here probably, is we have a yellow belt program. So we actually have the assembly operators become experts in different areas as far as, you know, quality, safety, that type of thing. And so we call it a yellow belt program, and they can earn their belts. It's like a 2-year program. The assembly people do this just to gain expertise in all the areas. There's no promises made. It's just the pride of learning new things and working the assembly floor and becoming a leader on the manufacturing floor. And that's been a really successful program for us. Good people make the difference. And Yeah, this to me is a real big one. I mean, you can have all the processes and procedures in place and that type of thing, but if you really don't have the right people, it really doesn't work out for you. So, I remember I was in a master's program. At the very last course we had in our master's program was a course where you had to kind of run your own business, and every week was like a quarter or something, and you had to make big business decisions. And the number one impact we saw to our business in that model, I realize these models change all the time, but in this model was the people factor, because the cost of hiring, firing, hiring, and training new people is enormous. And every person that went ahead and did that and was bringing people on and taking them off, bringing people on and taking them off, they lost in the little competition we had of running these different businesses. We kind of broke the class up. So it's really important that we recognize the people that are good, and we give them and address their needs. And I think we do a really good job of that. Stephen, our general manager here, especially does a great job of that. And we recognize people, and we let them. We have all different types of mentoring programs to help people grow, career development programs in Lockheed Martin. So there's a lot of formal things in the big corporation that doesn't help them, and they actually, a lot of people see the path in Lockheed Martin to where you can go. Even if you're a small manufacturing site like ours, it's not just a path in our facility, which does kind of give us a little edge there as far as attracting good people and retaining good people. But we've had many people, work through our business, leave our business, and for some reason they keep coming back to our business. So I think that kind of tells us that we're doing something right, and we like to think it's a lot of these reward systems and career development, and we have a leadership development program that's probably unparalleled as far as developing people, and I think we do attract the best talent. But when you attract the best talent, most of these people have high expectations. They expect the best from the organization, and as far as career development and developing their own skills, and I think we do a good job of that. So that's really helped us out, and it's been a strength. Teams work. Like I said, I have to admit, I've been kind of a lone guy when I was working in the manufacturing engineering area, so I had to grow into the teams work concept. But as I mentioned before, the strongest thing I think about teams, besides you start brainstorming ideas, we all know how that process works and how it really does end up, I think, providing more ideas. And I like I said, I'm a convert now. I actually do believe that anytime you go to do anything, you should do it with teams. And we have teams about every aspect of our business. Not the chart I'm showing here is our the main execution team, right? We have a focal point, which is a manufacturing program manager that goes across all the whole organization, pulls this team together, and they address every program like that. And they use the same common processes. Most of the processes, our systems, that type of thing, are common, and we can use those, even though sometimes the spec compliances are different. You can see all the different teams that we actually use. We have the chart before was the integrated product teams. We have the functional work teams that actually start working certain functional areas, and like circuit card assembly area or a cable assembly area that work those kind of systems. Continuous improvement teams, employee development teams, I talked about those, safety teams, diversity and cultural, and a lot of community type of teams too. So we really built, with 400 people, when you get a little bit too maybe big, it makes it a little tougher, but when you're about 400 people, you really do end up being more like a family. People are involved in a lot of different teams, cross teams, and you get a lot of diverse input, and I think it's really worked out well. I think most of us probably use teams. My only advice here would be use them as much as possible and use them to get buy-in to your ideas, because when it becomes part of what they believe in, God does it go easier. Don't go what I went through on that job size thing I was telling you about. That was I think I still have nightmares about that. I used to put a little. Actually, I did this. Stephen, you're gonna think I'm a little paranoid, and maybe I am. But I used to take a little thread and tape it across my hood, with tape, because I thought people seemed so angry at me. I thought, maybe I'll put a bomb in my car. I'm not really sure. So I thought I saw this in a movie once. I thought it was really great. So I'd come out every day And I would, you can't even see the little thread, so I'd come on out and I kind of look and, yep, thread's not broken, I'm good, So, like I said, maybe I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theory kind of guy, but. Be flexible. When you think of a DoD manufacturer, you don't think of it as being flexible, right? I mean, it's pretty much you got to follow specs. There's not much flexibility. You get your schedule, but actually, since we're not really building to usually a forecast or building to government requirements, it's a little bit different. And what the problem is that the schedules that we initially load up in our material requirements planning tools and are marching to, you'll get 3/4 of the way down, and customers want all kind of changes. In fact, going back to the presidential helicopter that you saw that we mentioned, maybe the story untold is there was a huge amount of requirements changes. They were in the process of building these things, and so you're doing all kind of redos, and you're still trying to make your schedule, and it's a really, really challenge. Anybody I think in the DoD business probably suffers this, and we see it all the time where, okay, we're building a platform of hardware because a carrier's coming in for an install in San Diego, and so we're on schedule. We're going to go. We're marching to that, and then 12th hour, carrier gets called out, and they're bringing in a DDG, and we have to put that platform in place instead. And so you don't say, well, no, can't do that. I mean, that's not the thing. And many times in this environment, the DoD environment now, you still. It's not like you get extra dollars for this. Somehow you got to just be able to turn on a dime. So you've got to have the flexibilities in your systems. And I know no one wants to install a new system, right? We all know how painful that is. Every time you install a new system, you spend $50 million in training, and you're down for 3 months, right, or longer. But you got to make sure your systems are tailored to be very flexible. And fortunately, over the years, a lot of the stuff we use is actually homegrown because we're an old Sperry company. I think I mentioned that. And Sperry is a big computer company. We kind of home grew our MRP system. The only problem is a lot of the people that maintain that system now are getting ready to retire. So I think we're not going to have to go to a commercial system. But we're going to have to make sure we maintain the same flexibility. Let me just see a few of the things I said here. Broad spec compliance. We've done a lot of different things over the years. So don't think that we're just down on one spec like some military spec. We actually in the 80s, our military business wasn't doing as well. We went ahead and we started getting a lot of post office business. We built most of the sorting machines that you see in all the post offices for sorting everything. We built them out of our facility. A lot of the FAA stuff we built out of our facility, all different specs for FAA. So you just have to be ready to change on a dime and have people retooled, retrained. So you got to have those training programs in place. You can't, have those kind of requirements come at you all just like that, and all of a sudden have everybody trained. You got to have those, systems in place, and to train the people, and your systems have to be flexible enough to handle the schedules and changes. Going to the next. This is kind of like our systems here. What we use. This is kind of a system now. I guess now probably most people have this, but a couple of decades ago, this was probably was a discriminator for us. Not anymore. So, discriminators change all the time, right? But this is a completely seamless system. For engineering input all the way through our doing our financials to the DoD, and it's on every desktop. It's available to everyone. It's very integrated, and we integrate everything right into our manufacturing execution system. It's paperless work instructions downstairs. Our manufacturing execution system on the assembly floor, does our labor tracking, our WIP tracking, and it does that SPC analysis I was talking about, that real-time SPC analysis. So very powerful tool. I think it really helps us, manage our business. And without these systems, and I don't think we'd be as successful as we are. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a flat screen. We have monitor, right? No, it's not a touch screen. We could have gone that way, but we didn't go that way. And they actually barcode, their labor in. And then this is a Lockheed Martin slogan. We never forget who we're working for, but this I think in a way it may give us actually an advantage maybe over commercial businesses because it's very easy to bring these things home and to our employees. I remember the day after September 11th, or maybe a day or two after September 11th. I think everybody was in shock for the first couple of days, but we had the Pentagon called Boeing and said, listen, we're going to need more of those JDAMs. We were building at the time, we were building 300 mission computers for the JDAM bomb at the time every month because they were going to slowly go through their 500,000 bomb stockpile that they had from World War II or Korea or whatever it was. And they slowly want to convert those things. Well, a day or two afterwards, the Pentagon called the Boeing called to us and says, okay, here's what we need. We need a quote for 1,000 a month, 3,000 a month, 5,000 a month, 8,000 a month, 10,000 a month. We're like, what? Kind of gets back to that flexibility thing, right? Like, oh my God, how do you go from a line that's producing 300 a month to like 8,000 a month? And they wanted this all done like in 5 months. We want you to start producing that much. And so we gave them quotes, and we ended up, I think the highest we got maybe was about 4,000 a month actually is what they ended up settling on. And we did it. And now we did get some help from the Air Force because we told the Air Force, we can't get capital turned around our corporation that quickly, so you're going to have to sponsor some capital for us. And then they came up with the money because that was that important, obviously, a national security thing. But we still had to bring all that equipment online, get that line running, and be able to produce that product at the signal levels you saw. In fact, JDAM ended up being the highest signal level product that we had running in our facility. It ended up being like 5.35 or something, I think. It was a very, very, very high yielding product, and it continues to be. And it's become one of the models for the Air Force of how to run a program. So it's a big success story. We are a Boeing silver supplier. We've done the same type of thing for Boeing as far as being very flexible. So, it wasn't very hard to get our people excited about that JDAM line, right? I mean, 9/11 just happened. I mean, wow, talking about a need and wanting to really make something happen. People see that. And now, as we're in Iraq and Afghanistan, how many of us all have relatives that are over there? And the same things happened with our workforce. We have groups of people who team together. They send supplies over there. We have in fact, let me go to the next slide here. We have, we support them all, but we also had there's a government, a DoD program called Why We Serve. And what they do is they actually send people into your facility, and they tell you, why they serve. They actually rotate, I think, through the program like for a year. It's like a year rotation. And it's people that's been in Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever they've been, special ops, and they come into your facility and talk and tour your facility, see the equipment that you supply, that maybe some of the things they've used or helped them, and they come and talk to our employees and tell us, about how that stuff has helped them. We had some, tear-jerking stories from these guys. I mean, these guys were, straight up. They're unscripted, and they come in and they tell you how your particular equipment helps save their buddy's life. I mean, we built some IED. Everybody know what IED is? Improvised explosive devices. We built an IED defeat module that was, the guy was talking about how those modules that we're building has saved his friends' lives. Okay, because evidently, I was just flying to San Diego the other day, and I was sitting next to a special ops guy out of Tampa. It was SOCOM, and he was telling me that when you drive, there's one major road in Iraq. There's not a lot of roads, okay, and people drive that road all the time. And he says that every time he's been on that road, he's had an IED explode. He's just behind him or in front of him. He says it's always like that. He said him and his buddies one time drove 2 hours on that road. It was just a 2-hour trip. And normally like a 2-hour ride, is no big deal for any of us, right? He said after 2 hours going down that road, he said he's exhausted because you're on constant alert, not knowing if you're going to be blown up, not knowing if somebody's going to take fire on. So you can imagine what these guys are under. And when they come into your facility, tell you these stories and tell you how your equipment and what you're doing and your quality and getting the stuff to them on time really matters. It really gets people's attention. And we try to bring people in like that all the time and give feedback to the people. And I think it really impacts them. I mean, even more amazingly, these are our awards, but the best one obviously is the IndustryWeek Magazine Award. But this chart, I love it because this is the organization I showed that was the manufacturing program managers that kind of control our programs. Well, the manager that reports to Stephen Hill, that in charge of all of our programs, his son was actually, in Iraq. I think this is like his third tour now, isn't it? Something like that. He's a lieutenant there. He was in the green zone, and he's constantly, using IED defeat modules to really save his life. In fact, he sent a picture back to his father one day in email. Thank God it was, after the fact, and it shows an IED exploding like 50 feet in back of the Humvee. You just see a big mushroom cloud, and he goes, "Dad, I was in this Humvee." That made him, feel real good, obviously. But, everyone in our facility knows Jack's son. They know Jack's grandsons, or the twin grandsons. I mean, they know him personally. He comes into our facility. He talks about what's happening over there. I mean, when you can get those kind of things, I'm not, all of your businesses are different, but when you can get customer feedback, whether it's through surveys or whatever else, and get it in front of your people, let them really know how important it is, what they do, I think it makes a lot of difference. And so that's our lessons learned. Oh, I didn't. My little jewel of wisdom. I was supposed to be like the millionaire guy, right? How much time do I have? I'm getting close there. Oh, okay. There we go. The little jewel of wisdom. This is like a Dale Carnegie thing from the 1930s. It says people never do things because you want them to do them. They do them because they want to do them. So and I always try to remember that every time I'm involved in teams or anything else. I mean, people, they need that want. You got to give them a reason to want to do it. And once they have that want, there's Katie bar the door. They'll do it. There's not a problem with that. So that's my little jewel. Probably not as good as the millionaire one. Watch what poor people do and don't do it. But that's my little jewel. I'm borrowing that from Dale Carnegie, so it's not even mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. We do have time for questions. If you have a question, was that a question? Okay.
Hi, David. Thank you. Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
What were the biggest challenges that you guys had to overcome being a high mix, low volume producer? Because that's the same that we are. That's the same environment that we have, and initiating some lean is been a big headache sometimes.
Right. Well, I think the cost issue is always there when you're doing low volume, right? Because you have so much NRE expense, and then you also have the problems with if you run anything over any kind of equipment, what are your setup times? So I think that the two biggest things that we really try to drill on is how do we lean out or standardize that initial startup, that manufacturing startup, to make it as common as we could possibly do, and have as much reuse as possible. Because if you're reinventing the wheel every time, you're just going to spend way too much money and never be effective. So we really try to go back and look, what is common? What can we reuse? How can we streamline that startup process? And the other part of it is the setups. As we buy equipment now, I think, and sometimes it's hard to kind of retro that once you have stuff in place, because then it's a little bit tougher, but you can still work around it. I can give you an example. I mean, I'm kind of going back to the play-through-hole days. We used to sit there and okay, now we're going to set up a card, and it's got 60 different part numbers, and you load all these tubes. This is back in the dip days, play-through-hole, and you load all these tubes. Of course, the same thing happens for surface mount right now, and you load all these things up. You have to, and this is, I think most people do this, but what you have to do is really, when you go to build something, or maybe build a whole project, or maybe build different projects, how can you make that as common as possible, right? And put as many of those part numbers on that machine that are common to all the cards. So that way you're only plugging in 2 or 3 tubes, right? Or 2 or 3 reels, wherever the machine is. And just that's the little things you could do. But then also when you go to buy a new capital, you've got to always be looking at what's the setup time? What's that expense for change out? And I think more and more people are realizing that we're in that environment. So I think a lot of equipment manufacturers are addressing that.
Okay, we have another question back here.
Afternoon. Just want to elaborate on your paperless system out on the floor. Is it network driven, or is it like does it have to go through CM control for release to the floor, or is it department driven, like your ME department controls that system and monitors the revision controls? And what's the reliability of the system that you have out on the floor? Do you have problems with the monitors breaking down?
Okay. All good questions. And I'll step back a little bit. When we first implemented paperless work instructions on the assembly floor, they were disconnected. They weren't tied to our BOM engineering system. So, and it was the fastest way to get it implemented, but not the desired way for control. So we actually had, you pull up that first page, and it would tell you, okay, make sure this ties to this, BOM information that you're getting with the job. And so it was a little, you had a hole there, okay, which we didn't like. But it was a fast way to get some paperless instructions down there, and we did that for a while. When we upgraded and went to our new manufacturing execution system, it is totally linked with our BOM. And so it's all revision controlled real time. So it does that. Now, as far as reliability, and this gets back to, we're not perfect, we make mistakes, right? The scalability of these systems sometimes fools you. We thought we had it all covered, we thought we had the speed we needed, and initially out of the box, we did not. Okay, we did not have the speed, the execution times as far as pulling up that information wasn't what we expected. We thought it'd be like the internet, and it wasn't. People were on wait times when they were putting in labor, that kind of thing. There was wait times of a minute or so, or 2 minutes sometimes. It was unacceptable. So we've had to go back and address that with additional servers and that type of thing. And I think we've installed some Citrix servers and done some imaging processes that help speed that up. So it is all network driven, by the way, and it is all tied, all revision controlled. The IT department maintains the system. But as far as the selection of the system that we use, it was a factory decision of who purchased the system. It was our decision, here's the system we wanted, IT implement this. Okay, sure.
We have another question here?
Yes, do you guys have Kanban at your site?
We have, not all areas have the Kanban systems, but when you start talking those jobs of one, where we start talking about the racks and the cabinets, we do have a Kanban system, and we move things down that way. And you think that would be tougher with big racks and cabinets, but we actually get these. We put these cabinets on pallets, and we put rollers on the bottom, and with lockdowns, and we roll them station to station, and we move them along that way. Yes, we do that, and it does help control that flow. Otherwise, again, you start building the wrong things, right? And you're building too much of one. You're not level loaded. I mean, you need to do these kind of things. Those Kanban systems sound painful at first, but these are the things that identify the real problems, right? You start identifying real problems when you start doing these kind of things, and you start realizing you're not level loaded. You are spending too much time on operation versus the other.
Do we have other questions? Oh, yes, we do. Oh, we wait till I get here and tell me that.
You talked about the self-directed work teams and the common goals between the departments. Are the cross-functional teams you have, are they firm teams, or is it more just a matrix organization? Do they report into their departments, but they kind of support each other on a team, or are they real self-directed, maybe co-located teams?
Well, I think we probably have both. When you start talking about the program management and how we run a program, it's like you said, it's a matrix organization. But when they start getting down to the self-directed teams, when they start actually working at problems on the floor, no, these are more like teams that they pull together. You get a manufacturing engineer, a quality engineer, and those teams get pulled together, and they're more self-directed, and they initiate work usually on their own. Many times there's just do it type of activities. They are involved. Those things happen on a daily basis. They pull the team in, they pull all functions in, and they work as a team cross-functionally.